Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Justice League, starring Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ray Fisher, Ciarán Hinds, Ezra Miller, and Diane Lane, and directed by Zack Snyder. Now, I remember hearing some things about Zack Snyder between who directed this movie versus Joss Whedon, who also directed the Avengers films. Well, we're gonna find out which scenes he's not mostly involved with. I think mostly it's directed by Zack Snyder, so I can't really be the one to complain. Oh wait, yes I can. So let's get into this. We open the movie with Superman, played by Henry Cavill, being interviewed by some kids doing a video podcast, even though he died in Batman vs. Superman, but that was before those events. But it's made me think, and I thought this since the second trailer came out, that Superman will be back in this movie, so either way, it was predictable. Batman, played by Ben Affleck, is fighting some perp, plus a vampire flying looking skew, whatever the hell they are. But I know he's with Steppenwolf, played by Ciarán Hinds, who I'll talk about later, but that fight was so stupid. Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot, stops a robbery in London, and she stops all the bullets. Looked really cheap, but less better of a character this time in her own movie and in Batman vs. Superman than in this movie. She was a 10 in Batman vs. Superman and Wonder Woman, and now she went down to 10 to a 6 as far as the character goes, and that's a problem. I still liked her, but she still was kind of a problem. Arthur Curry, played by aka Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, is kind of a badass, but Wonder Woman is kind of better, is one of the characters that wasn't introduced yet, but that character was just okay for me, but we don't know much about him is the real problem with this movie. Jeremy Irons is back as Alfred, and I didn't mind him around in this movie this time. Barry Allen, aka The Flash, played by Ezra Miller, is a 7 out of 10 for me, because he's a lot of fun and to watch, but still doesn't save the movie at this point. And I laughed at some of his jokes. I thought he was very funny. Like, he was probably the best character in this movie. Victor Stone, aka Cyborg, played by Ray Fisher, is a half-man, half-robot, and his story was just the worst out of any of them. And he's very one-note, in my opinion. Steppenwolf rises again at Wonder Woman's home with Connie Nielsen back from Wonder Woman, and his plot to destroy the world was just the worst. Like, it's really crummy. Like, he has to get the 3 different blocks, one from the Amazons, one from the ocean, and one from man's world, is the stupidest plot and villain I've ever seen. I really hate this character to complete death. Ma Kent, played by Diane Lane, loses her house by the bank and visits Lois Lane, played by Amy Adams, in both very brief roles. Lois had more to do than Ma Kent, but don't get me wrong, their quiet scene together was a nice scene, in my opinion. I like the Flash's joke about a brunch was funny, and there will be a joke about that during the credits scene. Steppenwolf gets the second black block from the ocean land by Queen Mira, played by the beautiful Amber Heard, and she took quite a beating until Aquaman comes in and kicks some ass. Was some terrible CGI and a terrible action scene. Batman's partner in crime, Commissioner Gordon, played by J.K. Simmons, is not as good as Commissioner Gordon from the Dark Knight trilogy, but he's a good but not a great character. But I liked him better as J. Jonah Jameson, in my opinion. The first fight with the Justice League without Superman versus Steppenwolf was pretty shoddy, and the editing in the action scene was very choppy. Like, I can't understand what the hell is going on in these scenes and how fast the action was going. Then we find out before that freaking fight goes in, it turns out Cyborg had the third block in his father's apartment. So they get Superman out of the casket thanks to Batman and wakes him with the last block and the Flash's lightning abilities, and it pisses him off at a point that he fights all of them and almost kills Batman by choking him, and Lois comes in to stop Superman, let me rephrase that, and go back to Clark and flies Lois back to his house. Like, I knew he would be alive at that point in the movie, and can I just say, because of the next Mission Impossible movie coming out next year, Henry Cavill is in it. They had to cover the mustache, this section right here. He has, for the next Mission Impossible movie, they had to cover that with CGI, and it looked not only noticeable, but very bad. Like, it's unforgivable and inexcusable. And that line Clark says to Batman, do you bleed? The same line Batman says to Superman in Batman vs. Superman was just pretentious, and I hated it then and I hate it now. And suddenly Steppenwolf steals the last block was just ridiculous. At first, they fight Steppenwolf without Superman, and the League is getting their asses handed to them, and Superman comes in before they all end up dead. Superman comes in to stop Steppenwolf's plan to destroy the world, and the Flash helps a family that the flying demons focused around earlier in the movie, and Superman saves a building full of people. Was a funny moment, but still, what the hell is going on in the action at the end? Cyborg is trying to hack the system, and after Superman saves the building full of people, he helps Cyborg hack the system and blows it up, and gets Steppenwolf destroyed for good, and ending this movie. Now, before I get to my rating, I just gotta say, there's 2 after credit scenes. One is Superman and the Flash racing to see who's the fastest was funny, but the very after credit scene, number 2, Lex Luthor is out of prison. How? I don't know that. But he hires Deathstroke to join on his villain league. Something tells me there's more to go, and I'm not happy with it after this movie. It's just dumbed down. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 3.1 out of 10. This is the most ridiculous of the DC Expanded Universe, and I don't want any more DC movies as far as I'm concerned. Please, Warner Brothers, just stop. For real, just stop and reboot it. Just really. Don't do any more. And I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for Justice League, and until next time, up, and away. Oh, and I almost forgot. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like buttons. Add me as a subscribe. And watch some more videos. And please leave a positive comment. All that fun stuff. And yeah, I forgot about that part myself, so please forgive me.